Most gardeners think July is the end of the planting season. They look at their wilting lettuce, their bolted spinach, and they hang up their gloves until September. They are wrong, and that mistake is costing them their best harvest of the year. If you plant the right seeds right now, you aren't just filling gaps in a tired garden bed. You're stepping into the most productive window most home gardeners never even know exists. Big box stores clear their seed racks in June because they want you buying transplants in spring. Nobody's making money telling you that July soil, hot, alive, and full of microbial activity, can actually grow food faster than the soil you planted in May. Here's the July reset list, all 21 of them, and exactly how to get them in the ground before you lose your window. Here's the part most people get backwards. They think growth is all about sunlight, so they assume spring is the only good window. But plants don't just respond to light, they respond to soil temperature, and in July, your soil is running like a furnace. That heat speeds up germination, root development, and microbial activity that breaks down nutrients for your plants to use. A bean seed that takes 10 days to sprout in cool, May soil can break the surface in 5 or 6 days right now. That's not a guess, it's basic soil biology, and it's the whole reason this list exists. So consider this your 4-phase July reset. Phase 1 is your heat lovers, the vegetables that are basically begging for this weather. Phase 2 is your secret second harvest, the cool season crops you sneak in now so they mature as fall arrives. Phase 3 is the cold hardy survivors, the plants that actually get sweeter after a frost. And Phase 4 is your short window greens, the ones that'll have you harvesting in as little as 3 weeks. Stick around because one of these crops can survive being buried under actual snow if you plant it this week, and I'll tell you exactly which one. Now, before we get into the list, if you've got a patch of dead garden bed sitting there right now, go ahead and clear it while you watch, because by the end of this, you'll have a planting list ready to go and zero excuse to wait. Let's start with the mistake that wastes more July gardens than anything else: planting the wrong crop for the heat you're actually dealing with. Phase 1, the heat lovers. These are your immediate wins, the crops that don't just tolerate July, they actually perform better in it. Number 1 and 2, bush beans. Skip pole varieties for this late planting. Bush beans mature faster and don't need trellising. You'll be fighting in 95-degree heat. Drop seeds an inch deep, keep the soil consistently moist for the first week, and you're looking at a harvest in 50 to 55 days. The mistake most people make here is planting too deep, thinking it'll protect the seed from heat. It actually just delays germination. An inch is plenty. Number 3, heat-tolerant cucumbers. Standard slicing cucumbers can struggle and turn bitter once daytime temps stay above 90, so look for varieties bred for heat tolerance. The real risk in July isn't the heat itself, it's inconsistent watering. Cucumbers that dry out and then get soaked will produce bitter, misshapen fruit. Deep, even watering 2 to 3 times a week beats a daily light sprinkle every time. Number 4, summer squash. This is about as close to a guaranteed July win as you'll find. The seeds germinate in days, the plants explode with growth in heat, and you'll likely be harvesting within 50 days. The catch is squash bugs and squash vine borers, which are most active in midsummer. Check the undersides of leaves weekly for clusters of small bronze eggs and squish them before they hatch. That 5-minute habit saves entire plants. Here's your first success tip, and it's one I lean on every July: the 2-inch mulch rule. The second those seeds are in, lay down 2 inches of straw or shredded leaf mulch around them, not on top of the seed itself. That mulch layer can drop soil temperature by several degrees and cut your watering needs nearly in half. Skip this step, and you're fighting the heat all season instead of working with it. However, that's not the biggest reason July gardeners fall behind. The biggest reason is that they only think about right now. They forget that the vegetables you plant this week are actually setting up your fall harvest too. And this is where things get interesting. Phase 2, the secret second harvest. Think of this as building a time machine into your garden bed. Right now, in July, you have roughly 60 to 90 days before your average first frost. Depending on where you live in the US, check your local extension office or a frost date calculator for your zip code if you're not sure. That window is exactly enough time for a handful of crops that need to go in the ground now, while it's hot, so they can mature as the weather cools down into something they actually prefer. Number 5. Carrots. Carrots are forgiving about heat at planting, but they sweeten up dramatically as soil temperatures drop in fall. The trick is germination. Carrot seeds are tiny and can dry out fast in July sun. Cover the row with a board or burlap for the first week to hold moisture in and check daily. Most carrot failures in summer planting come down to the surface drying out before the seed ever sprouts. Number 6. Beets. Beets handle the heat better than most root crops and double as a 2-for-1 harvest since you get the greens early and the root later. Plant them an inch apart, thin to 3 inches once they sprout, and don't skip the thinning. Crowded beets will fight each other for space, and you'll end up with small, woody roots. Number 7. Scallions. Also called green onions, these are about as low maintenance as it gets. They're quick, forgiving of July heat, and you can start harvesting outer leaves in as little as 3 weeks while letting the rest mature. The only real mistake here is planting them too thick and never thinning. Give them breathing room or they'll stay thin and weak. This is the bridge most gardeners completely miss. You're not planting carrots and beets because it's a good time for carrots and beets right now. You're planting them because by the time they mature, conditions will have shifted in their favor. That's the whole logic of the July reset. The next mistake can undo everything you've planted so far, and it's one I've made myself, ignoring the long game completely. Phase 3, the cold hardy survivors. These are the crops still standing when everyone else's garden has already gone brown and been pulled out. And here's something a lot of new gardeners don't realize. Several of these vegetables don't just survive a frost, they actually taste better afterward. Cold temperatures trigger plants to convert stored starches into sugars as a kind of natural antifreeze. And that shows up as a noticeably sweeter, milder flavor on your plate. Number 8. Kale. Plant it now, and by the time the first frost hits, you'll have a mature plant that can keep producing leaves well into winter in most US growing zones. The biggest mistake with July-planted kale is cabbage worms. Check the undersides of leaves for small green caterpillars and pick them off, or use a floating row cover to keep the moths from laying eggs in the first place. Number 9. Swiss chard. Chard is remarkably heat-tolerant for a leafy green, which is what makes it perfect for a July start. It'll keep producing right through the first few frosts. Harvest outer leaves and let the center keep growing, rather than cutting the whole plant at once. That single habit can stretch one planting into months of harvests. Number 10. Collard greens. A southern staple for good reason. Collards actually prefer cooler weather to finish out, and a July planting times them perfectly to mature right as temperatures drop. Like kale, watch for cabbage worms, and don't crowd your rows. Collards need 18 to 24 inches between plants to develop properly. Now here's that mystery crop I mentioned. There's a vegetable on this list that once mature can sit under actual snow cover and still be harvestable in winter in many parts of the country. It's not kale and it's not chard. We'll get to it in just a minute because it belongs in our next phase, and it might be the most underrated plant on this entire list. What happens next surprises a lot of growers who think their gardening season ends with the first cold snap. Phase 4, the short window greens. This phase is all about instant gratification because not every vegetable needs months to reward you. Some of these you'll be eating in under 3 weeks. Number 11 through 13, your radish varieties. Classic round radishes, French breakfast, and daikon. Round radishes can be ready in as little as 21 to 25 days, which makes them one of the fastest payoffs in the entire garden. The mistake most people make is letting the soil dry out during that short window. Radishes that get stressed by inconsistent watering will turn woody and overly spicy instead of crisp. Number 14, arugula. This is a peppery green that actually prefers the warmth-to-cool transition of late summer into fall. You can start cutting leaves in as little as 3 weeks, and it'll regrow multiple times if you harvest the outer leaves instead of pulling the whole plant. Number 15, baby spinach. Now here's where I need to correct something most July planting guides get completely wrong. Standard spinach hates summer heat and will bolt, meaning it shoots up a flower stalk and turns bitter within days of hot weather. So don't plant spinach in full July heat expecting a normal harvest. Instead, hold off 2 to 3 weeks until late July or early August, or plant it in a spot with afternoon shade and treat it as a quick-cut baby green rather than a full head. That's the difference between a real harvest and a bitter, bolted mess. Numbers 16 through 21 round out your fast finishers. Mustard greens, which handle heat better than most salad greens and add a sharp, peppery bite. Turnips, grown for both root and green, ready in about 50 days. Green beans as a second succession planting if your first batch from earlier this summer is winding down. Summer lettuce varieties bred specifically for bolt resistance, which is the only kind of lettuce you should be planting right now. Most regular lettuce will bolt in days in July heat, so don't fall for that mistake. Bok choy, a fast, heat-tolerant Asian green that matures in about 45 days and handles both warm starts and cool finishes. And finally, our mystery crop, winter-hardy spinach varieties planted specifically as a fall crop. Certain cold-hardy spinach types, started now and allowed to mature into late fall, can survive being buried under snow and still be harvested through much of winter in many U.S. growing zones. That's the plant most gardeners assume is dead the moment frost hits, and it's sitting there the whole time, waiting under the snow. This simple practice still works today the same way it worked for backyard growers decades ago. Stagger your plantings, match the crop to the season it'll actually mature in, and you stretch one growing season into 3 distinct harvests. Now let's talk about the 3 mistakes that quietly wreck a July garden, because the planting list only works if the follow-through is right. Mistake 1: watering on a schedule instead of watering based on the soil. In July heat, a quick daily sprinkle wets the surface and evaporates before it ever reaches the roots. Stick a finger 2 inches into the soil. If it's dry at that depth, water deeply. If it's still damp, skip a day. This single change prevents more July garden failures than any other single fix. Mistake 2: planting in full afternoon sun without any relief for your cool season crops. Carrots, beets, and especially that baby spinach will appreciate a few hours of afternoon shade from a taller companion plant, a shade cloth, or even the natural shadow of a fence. You're not avoiding sun entirely, you're avoiding the harshest hours. Mistake 3: ignoring succession planting. Don't put all 21 of these in the ground on the same day and call it done. Stagger your radishes, lettuce, and beans every 10 to 14 days, and you'll have a rolling harvest instead of one overwhelming glut followed by weeks of nothing. If you've made it this far, you've now got a complete 4-phase planting strategy, real reasons behind every choice, and the mistakes to dodge along the way. That's more than most July planting guides will ever give you. And if you want to actually remember which of these 21 to plant first, hit save on this video right now. You're going to want to come back to this list when you're standing in the garden center next week, not trying to recall it from memory. So here's where this actually matters for you. July isn't the leftover month of the gardening season. For these 21 crops, it might be the best one. The heat that's been frustrating you all summer is exactly what bush beans, cucumbers, and squash need to take off fast. And the cooling weather everyone dreads in October is exactly what makes your carrots sweeter, your kale hardier, and your beets more tender. Most gardeners give up right about now because they think the window has closed. It hasn't. It's just shifted into a different shape, and now you know exactly what that shape looks like. You've got roughly 48 hours before this window starts narrowing, especially if you're further north. So here's the real test. Pick one zone of your garden, clear it today, and get at least 3 of these in the ground before the week is out. Drop a comment with which one you're planting first: bush beans, kale, or that mystery winter spinach. And if this list just saved your July garden, hit subscribe and like this video so the next one lands in front of you before you miss another window.